things have become more instant, right? Used to be you wanted to go somewhere. Well, how are you going to get there? If you don't have a car, well, you're walking. Well, so you have to plan. If I want to go see my friend, it's a 3 hour walk. So I guess I'm walking. I gotta. Everything is instant now. The microwave came along whenever the microwave came along in the 70s, and now your food could be heated up in 60 seconds, and nobody could wait any longer than that anymore. Heck, popcorn took too long to pop, so you had to get microwave popcorn. Everything had to be instantaneous, and then it became, well, I couldn't possibly go to the bank. I need to be able to do that on a computer because I can't wait to go down there. And the instant society, as convenient as it seems, is part of what you're talking about with the slavery. I want a big screen television. Well, I don't have any money. Well, I could go to one of these places that'll give me a payday loan, and I can get the big screen TV today. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Randy, have you heard of Randy Hillier? You know who that is? That ring a
Yes,
bell?
I have.
Right?
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
did this great little spiel about 15-minute cities. So he's got his little chickens, and he's got them all. He's like, I'll show you an example of what the 15-minute city is, he says. So he shows the chickens. He says, here's the chicken coop. He says, the door's open. They can leave whenever they want, but they don't. Okay? Because the chicken coop's got the protection. It's got all these nice little uniform replicated boxes for them to sit in, and it's got all the food they can want. He says, this is what your UBI is going to be, right? You sit in this nice little 15-minute city, follow the rules, get your free paycheck every month, and what do? I come in and I grab all the eggs, and I take the produce of all your labor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nice simple little metaphor of how
That's
the
very,
higher
very,
ups, the people who pull the larger levers in society would much rather us all be dependent little chicken coops as opposed to independent self-reliant humans.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, good reason to get chickens right there. But
Yeah, we keep coming back to chickens, and I was talking to another friend that like the other day about this, about how there's two ways we can go about this. We can move out of the city and get chickens, or we could become political, like locally political, and like lobby the crap out of our local government until we're allowed to have chickens in the city.
well, I think that if you're not allowed to in Calgary, is that the case? You're not allowed
No,
to have city
I'm in
chickens?
Lethbridge. I'm in Lethbridge. Definitely Calgary.
Oh,
You're not allowed.
Lethbridge.
A friend of mine had one like
Yeah,
hidden in his garage, so I'm assuming that you're not allowed to here.
yeah. Yeah, you should just just out of just for the spite of it, just crawl up their backsides and make them allow you to have chickens.
Yeah,
It's
like
ridiculous.
there's a grain elevator like right in the middle of town. The whole town smells like burnt canola, So it's like you can handle a bit of chicken smell,
Yeah,
all right?
yeah, absolutely. There's that. There's feedlots and
Exactly.
slaughterhouses and all
Yeah.
sorts of disgusting things in Lethbridge. So chickens would be the least of it. In fact, it would improve the city quite a bit. So anyway, that's something for you to do. Um, so I wanted to get back to the history of my off-gridishness,
Right,
just to
right, for sure. Yeah.
kind of help you out with that. So that as a kid, that was part of our world. We lived very remote. We were hooked up to hydro. Well, I think we had wood stove. We never had like oil heat or gas or whatever,
Mhm.
but we're definitely connected to the grid in that respect that hydro was there. Um, However, I don't know that we would have cared if they would have turned it off. And I think that's an important part of understanding on the grid, off the grid.
Right.
It's kind of like, what does the grid mean to you? If all of a sudden you had to live without that stuff and you could live without that stuff, would you care? Right? Like,
Right.
yeah, it makes life a little tougher, but it just makes things slightly different. So for a number of years in my early 20s, I got married fairly young at the age of 22 or something like that. And we were completely broke. And we lived in a little shack in the woods with no running water and wood heat. Uh, there was electricity coming to the cabin, but it powered one light bulb. So, you know, there wasn't anything else going on. And we were really quite comfortable and content with that. That was our reality. And we didn't realize that we were living in quote unquote third world situation.
Right.
We never looked at the other people thinking they had something we didn't have, because we also had all this freedom because we didn't need to make big incomes to pay for what we had because it was so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Our rent was $135 a month,
Yeah.
and we lived on 425 acres, right? So we really
Oh,
kind of
really?
had the
Oh,
world on
wow.
the
That is
tail.
a sweet spot. Where was that?
That was not that far from Sun Peaks Resort,
Oh,
up the
wow.
Lewis Creek Road.
Wow.
But it was all based on the fact that it was this little shack.
Right.
And so people put so much value in the house,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's pretty obvious because houses, now are insanely expensive. And then they lock themselves up inside, kind of like the chickens in the backyard.
Yeah.
and they live in this little box, and they're not happy,
Yeah.
right?
They don't know why. They don't know why. They're like, I have all the things I need, right? And I feel like that is the source of our modern malaise in the first world. Is there's a the same way that you feel good, you get endorphins after exercise and hard work. There's a certain amount of serotonin, the I accomplished this feeling, that comes with getting what you need and what you want. And when it's just given to you, it's kind of or if it comes too easy, you almost feel this guilt, like the upper 1% for, like, how did I deserve all this, right? I didn't do anything. It just showed up, right? There's something about the what's the saying, the Buddhist saying, that the journey is the destination kind of thing. Whereas people kind of get to the destination of being in a house with a fridge full of food, and now they're all depressed because they ain't got nothing to do.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's funny how some things that we consider to be a right, that we should have a right to certain things, when you don't have them because of your economic situation or whatever the case may be, and you get to enjoy them periodically, they become luxuries and great pleasures. Like a hot shower, man, if you haven't had a hot shower for a while because it just wasn't available, it's like it doesn't get better than a hot shower, right? Like, it just doesn't.
No, it's divine. Yeah.
And we take all these things for granted all the time. And we are privileged people. In our part of the world, in the Western world, we're privileged people. And I don't see that I don't see a reason to be guilty, feel guilty for that. But I feel a real strong compulsion to be thankful for that privilege.
Right. Yes, that is the other side of it.
Not to squander it, not to minimalize it, that it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's a big deal, right? We get up in the morning, we sit there and go, well, what do I want for breakfast this morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not, do I have food for breakfast, or am I going to eat today? It's, what do I want? And then, so it's that right there is a reason to give thanks every morning, and there's so many things like that. So during those years where we lived in the cabin, we also planted trees in spring, and then I would go surveying and we'd do construction, and, there was no stable, steady income. And we also didn't care. It was fine. We weren't screaming at the government to create a job for us that we could go to every day and sit behind a desk all the time. It was like, well, that season's over. I guess we've got to keep working. And we went out of our way to find work, and we were successful doing that. During those periods of time, during the spring and summer and into the fall, but mostly spring and summer, because of the nature of the work was in the bush, there was, we couldn't live in our house, our shack.
You had to
So
go to where the
now we're
work
living in
was.
a right. So now we're living in a tent or this old van. Bought an old 1970s crew van. Took the seats out and lived in the back of it.
Yeah.
Did that for years. Years.
Years with your wife
Never
too.
heard. Yeah, it was
And
good
are
for
we
us.
talking years as in like seasonally for years or like years straight?
Seasonally
Yeah.
seasonally
Okay.
for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But you know what? We don't look back at the van like it was a hardship. When we look back at the van was like this thing that took us on adventures, and it was fantastic. It was a roof over our head that didn't leak when it rained,
Yeah.
and we bought a canoe, and I think we spent every nickel we had to get the canoe, and we threw that on top of the van so that when you had a day off, you threw the canoe in the local lake, the closest lake, and you went swimming and got cleaned up, and those are far more valuable things than all the crap that money can buy.
Yeah.
Consumerism is just an ugly, ugly, ugly blight on our society.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible.
It's funny.
And
What we're talking about has just brought up in my mind what Jesus said about teaching a man to fish, and we're really hammering that it's great to teach a man to fish. But now I just realized the paradox that Jesus also gave away a bunch of fish too.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
he's a bit contradicting
He's
himself
busy,
there.
busy feeding people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Anyway, so that fits in with my off-grid tendencies. Is that having lived in the little shack for how many years, having grown up, with wood heat and whatever, having and having to go collect firewood, all that was just normal, right?
Yeah.
In the shack, we had to carry our water, so you'd carry it, you'd heat it up on a wood stove, you'd wait. You got this delayed gratification. You can't just jump in the shower.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the water's frozen right now, so we're going to wait for it to thaw out. Then we're going to let it get to temperature, and then we're going to wash our bodies, and it's going to be awesome,
Yeah.
right?
But you
So
still had a shower set up, or were you bucket in it?
yeah, yeah, no. I built a shower out of garbage because we didn't have money, so we went to the dump, and we salvaged an old tub out of the dump. We had to give the dump guys $10, but we got a tub out of the dump, and then I ended up having to go to a hardware store to buy a few fittings to have a drain that would go through the floor. The cabin was raised off the ground, and the ground below was kind of this broken rock that just you could pour water into it forever; it would never fill up. So we could just drain it out onto the ground, but
Mm-hmm.
gray water anyway. And we never had indoor toilet either, right? So we had outdoor toilet all those years.
Yeah.
But and then I bought an old I bought a water jug, one of those 5-gallon water jugs, and Jimmy rigged a hose and a little thing onto it from a shower bag, and we from the dump we got a piece of cable and a few other things, and we made it so you could lift it up. You'd raise it up towards the ceiling after you filled it with the right temperature water. And strategically, we put the tub right behind the wood stove so that when the tub itself was a little bit warm from the wood stove, and when you stepped out of the tub, the tiles were warm. Yeah.
And did you have?
It was
So
luxurious.
I've done my own fair hobo showers. So did you have a valve to conserve your water, or did you just shower real quick?
Well, yeah, because no, the little hose that I had coming off of the water bottle was from a shower bag, one of those solar shower bags.
Yeah.
That we had owned for a while, and then the dog decided to eat it, so it got destroyed.
Yeah.
But I never threw things away. I would take parts off of things.
Yeah.
If there was one bolt that was good, I would pull the bolt out and keep it because you never know when you need a bolt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that hose with the shower head had a little on-off on it, so we could get two of us. You'd turn the thing on, you get wet, and you'd turn it off, and then you'd soap up real good, and then you'd turn it on and rinse off. And so we could literally get 2 showers out of 5 gallons of water if Kim wasn't washing her hair. right?
There you go. Yeah.
I, I never had enough hair to worry about it, but